Hey everybody, this is Chris Westfall, and I'm here with Jacob, and Jacob's in the, what would you say, not the Midwest, the Mid-East of the United
States. Yeah, the Mid-Southeast, Mid-East.
Awesome. And Jacob was with me in Canada on the Cigna trip this year in 2018 for production for last year in 2017. We had a really good time in Banff, and Jacob agreed to join me here today and answer a couple of questions about how he got started in the business, because I think it's encouraging and will help others. You know, sometimes I'm amazed, Jacob, at agents who believe that you actually can't sell anything over the phone, that it really doesn't work, that it's not real and all that kind of stuff. You didn't start off over the phone. You started off in a traditional way of insurance. How did you get started in insurance to begin with?
Well, Chris, I have to say I was one of those guys, honestly. In the phone sales aspect of it, I mean, I'd always heard, you know, people buy over the phone, but I thought, well, that's people calling in off TV, AARP, Mutual Omaha. And frankly, what I was in worked for me. I mean, the career that I was in, I've been in insurance since '97, and always sold face to face. You know, I had several clients, went on company conventions, really didn't see a need to change. In fact, was amazed that you could actually successfully do it over the phone. And you were probably one of the first people that I had actually heard about that successfully did it. And do you want me to kind of share that story, or were you going in another direction?
How did that come about?
Well, I actually got another agent of mine said, have you seen this guy, Chris, that's selling over the phone? Have you looked into how he's doing that? And I said, no, I'm sure he's got a system that works for him, but I don't want to try to reinvent my wheel. What we're doing is fine. I'm not, you know, you always hear new ways of doing things. Frankly, I thought I had all the answers, knew what I was doing. But I had a guy came into the office the very week that the other agent had mentioned that to me. Never met this gentleman, but he was a friend of an agent that worked under me at our office here in Tennessee. And he said, Jacob, he said, I am looking for another opportunity. He said, the office I worked for was a call center. We did very, very well at it, but the guy that ran the call center got in a divorce, and long story short, he's not running the business anymore. And he said, we did everything over the phone. And I said, well, that's interesting. I said, I've never done that, so I don't have any tools to help you in that area. We don't do that here. And he said, and I said, what kind of system do you use? What kind of quoting software? I said, how did you guys kind of get set up with that? And he said, well, have you heard of a guy named Chris Westfall? I said, well, if you'd asked me last week, no. I said, but I just so happen to know who you're talking about, but I haven't really learned much about what he does. I've just watched a video of his just yesterday, in fact.
Wow.
And so he kind of got my attention. And this guy was about 30 minutes from where I'm at. So he's not, I mean, he just drove up the road and we just had a conversation. I said, I'll tell you what, I said, I'll be happy to look into it with you. Maybe you can kind of help show me what you're doing, and we'll see how it goes. So over the next several months, I just kind of started incorporating that into what I did. I'd have a spouse call turning 65. I said, hey, I can come up there, but let's just go through the rates on phone and see, you know, what's available and see what the best price is for you. And I had to fight that urge to drive on up to their house because I'm so used to that.
Yeah.
And then they said, well, you mean we can just do it over the phone? Well, let's just do it now, you know, instead of looking at the calendar and finding a day and a time that works for both of us. So over the next year or so, we just kind of transitioned to that model. And the agents I've brought on since then, myself, there's probably about 10 or 15 of us. And that's all we do, frankly, unless somebody local or relative wants to meet with me. It's just so much better. I'm thankful for that, really.
Well, you say it's better. There's other people who say that it, not only that it can't be done, but even if it can be done, that it's not as good as going face-to-face, belly-to-belly. You've done both. You've got experience now for years doing both. Which do you think is better? I kind of know the answer, I think. And why do you think it's better to do it over the phone as opposed to driving everywhere?
Well, the reason I think it's better is I feel like I can help the client better when I've got all my tools in front of me versus being in their home, which may not have cell service.
Right.
You know, without cell service, you're limited tremendously. And there's a lot of places where you don't have it because I've been in them. And then and all the downtime that you're spending trying to find their house, they say, oh, yeah, I'll be here at 3. And you get by there at 2:55. Nobody's home. So there's all that downtime that you just don't have, that now I've got time for my kids. I coached my 12-year-old's baseball team this year. Never been able to coach his team before because now I'm here, you know. So you just have more time to spend not only on your business but on your family, which to me is the reason I got into this business, just for the renewable income. And I just feel like I can do a better job serving clients. And then if I have a customer service call that comes in, I can take it in between sales, where a lot of times I can't take it when I'm on the road. I don't have my files. I can't remember when I wrote the person. So there's a whole little list of reasons, but that's just a few.
One of the things I've been talking about recently on MedicareAgentTraining.com is scaling your business beyond what you, the individual agent, can do. You've done that very successfully. You've grown from yourself now to a significant team. In doing that, do you think that's easier to scale, where you can control that in an environment in-house, as opposed to having everybody going in different directions and having to, ride with all the new agents on appointments? Comparing both kind of agency models, which do you think is better for scaling up your business?
Well, definitely the phone. And I'll say why. For me, it's so much easier to have somebody sitting next to you than it is trying to bring them on a road trip. And you can conduct so many more presentations over the phone than you can. When I have a new agent I'm training, I'll say, listen, don't try to pitch that person if you're not comfortable with the rates and everything yet. Go get all their information. Tell them, let me call you right back. And then we'll sit down and have a meeting together, 5-10 minutes, and say, okay, this is why this carrier makes sense if it's an underwritten case, and then they can call back. They got their guns loaded and cocked. Yeah, you can do that in the house, but you don't want to give them, opinion that you're new and you don't know what you're doing. It's just easier yes, very much easier to train. And plus, if you're training an agent that's not in your area, not everybody's going to come to here. I have agents in other states, not as many as you probably, but it's so much easier to train somebody remotely, and you got a system to do that with. You can say, do this, this, and this, and you don't have all the things that get in the way, with the road sales and the road issues.
So you're great at building a team now, selling Medicare supplements over the phone. Have you built into your sales process, into your agency, any other products besides Medicare supplements? And if so, what do you like selling?
We're trying to break into the dental. We get that asked constantly, and that's a good door opener. And I have dropped the ball on that. But now we do a lot of life. We do actually do annuities over the phone successfully. I've written several over the phone. It helped me, though, because I had already done that before. And we don't write index products or anything like that over the phone, but just fix simple stuff. Cancer plans, we've written those over the phone. And Cigna has a great platform for that, which I think you've helped implement to do those add-on products where you just do it all on one e-app. Medico has a pretty good product offering for that too, good platform. So cross-selling is just huge, and we're really missing the boat if we don't open that door or just ask about that, because the opportunity is there. You've already got their banking information. Right. So trying to teach agents to not be a one-trick pony, but really help that client and explore other opportunity while you've got that person on the phone. You already paid the cost to acquire them, so
absolutely.
Might as well maximize it. Definitely.
So you've got agents that are not only in your house where you are in your agency, but you've got them in different locations remotely. How do you find, if you're doing a typical system of recruiting agents, what's the best way that you found to grow your team, or is it a bunch of different ways?
To grow our agents, word of mouth has been the best way. Honestly, we have gotten most of our team through connections through our agents, through our staff, through people I know at church. A lot of them have asked me, and it's not been for everybody. I've got my best friend, I would say, who got his license, and he's a firefighter. It just didn't work for him. We're still friends, but everybody that I would say that has been successful on my team has been through a connection. We don't do direct mail marketing for agents. Really, we have just a small team, and really with 10 or 15 good agents, it's amazing how much production you can do with just a small group of people that come in every day and work with a good system. That's awesome. And I would say with a good phone sales system.
Yeah. One of the objections that we hear from people who are out there on the internet saying that you have to see people face to face, that 50 or 100-year-old model of selling insurance. One of the things that they say is your persistency can't be anywhere near as good if you're doing a telephone transaction as opposed to if you were in the house. But with Medicare supplements, we've seen just the opposite. What has your experience been to the question of persistency on your business?
Well, I was one of those people, like I was talking to you earlier, that thought the persistency just couldn't be there, because if you sold somebody on the phone, it was almost like an accident that had happened to start with. and that person is not going to stay loyal to you when somebody else comes along. But what I found is it's no different than when I sold them in person. If you don't do a good job educating that client 6 months ago, somebody else is going to switch them regardless of how you sold them.
Right.
You know, they have a short memory span, so we want to keep their memory, we want to keep in front of them, regardless of how you got that customer. And I didn't have time to kind of nurture those relationships when I was in the field. Yeah, I could have sent out postcards still, you know, which I could have still done. But as far as my experience, because I've been doing it now, this will be the 3rd year. So I feel like I've done it long enough to kind of see what that persistency would be like. Because most of the people drop off in the first 12 months if they're going to cancel. You know, the persistency gets better as it goes on, as you know. And I've not seen any difference at all when I run our numbers. In fact, it's actually been stronger, which is kind of incredible. But we have not lost any persistency at all, and our production has gone up tremendously. My personal production is much higher now than it was before.
Well, you know, that always begs the question everywhere we go. Agents want to know, well, how do you find prospects? And there's a million different ways to do that. What are some of the ways that you found success in generating new business for you and your agents? Well,
traditionally, Chris, direct mail was all we did primarily. Probably 90% of our model was direct mail. We still do some direct mail to areas that we know are good areas to write in. But now we really have 4 lead sources, because you almost have to have, I think, more than one, especially if you're just selling over the phone because of the do not call restrictions.
Right.
You know, I mean, you're quickly finding yourself running out of data if you have enough agents, because, you know, there's some states that are not really good to call into. And because of the do not call restrictions, I mean, if you get a license in Wyoming, well, you just spent $200 to call, you know, 1 day's worth of leads.
Right. Exactly.
So we do direct mail. Facebook and YouTube have been really huge, especially locally. We get from the Facebook ads, we have generated a ton of call-ins with proper ads with the promotional fee that it's very cheap advertising. And there's a lot that goes into the internet marketing. I'm definitely no expert in that at all. I'm trying to learn more about that, because that's just that's going to be a huge source of sales in the future for everybody, I think.
You know, you touched on something that I've really seen a lot lately with agents who are working on building their marketing plan, and that is Facebook's great, but a lot of agents will try to do a shotgun approach across the entire country with a very generic message and wonder why their cost per acquisition is so high, when I've seen a lot of success with people actually being in their backyard, talking about their county, their city, their state, and going local. And the higher the target is, you know, the more specific your target is, the cheaper your lead's going to be. And what we found is that people respond a lot more if it's somebody in their backyard. Like the lady who was with us on our mastermind in St. Thomas was talking about, a lot of her marketing online right now is just talking about, deal with somebody local. We are here in this county, in this city, so that the local people go, oh, I can identify with that. I can relate to that. So it kind of resonates when you're talking about local marketing with regard to Facebook and getting people in your own backyard. That's awesome.
Sure, definitely.
And I want to ask you this. What do you see the future as with selling Medicare supplements over the phone? Is it something that's closing down? Is it something that's going to be growing, in your opinion? Or where do you see the future with you and your agents and this opportunity?
I feel like it's going to grow, Chris. And one of the reasons I feel like that, right now, we're not actively pursuing phone sales for people over the age of 74.
Yeah.
Just because the baby boomers and just a little older than the baby boomers are just more internet savvy. They're using the smartphones. When you get past 75 and above, along with the cognitive issues that come with that, they're not as open-minded to that. But I feel like in the future, that's going to start changing, because the people that we're marketing to now that have the iPads, that have the Facebook accounts, they're going to be 75 soon. So as they age, I think that's going to be more common. But right now, we're trying to cap when we market through these different avenues. We're making the maximum age 74. But I think in the future that's going to be a lot more common, and it's already happening now. I mean, people buy their car insurance over the phone every day.
Yeah.
They don't have a guy show up at their house with a briefcase to sell them Geico.
Right.
So it's just, for some reason, the health insurance industry, especially the Medicare part, they've not really kept up with the other industries in that respect. But I think that'll change.
You know, I see something in your background. It looks something like this.
Yep.
Where'd you get that from?
I got that on the trip with you, Chris. That was a nice gift that Cigna actually put together. The photographer took a photo of us the last evening, I think, or the one before.
You were wearing a very brightly colored tie that really stood out. Where'd you get that tie from? I have to know.
That's actually from the Rush Limbaugh collection. I've got a couple more like that. So my wife makes fun of me because she says those ties are too loud, but they definitely get noticed.
And the last time I spoke to you, I think it was maybe that night, you were going on the helicopter at 2:00 that next day to fly over Canada. How'd that end up turning out?
Incredible. Yeah, that was probably the highlight of our trip, but there was several highlights. But we took a helicopter tour right over the mountains there and right outside of Banff. Oh, it was just incredible. I mean, you couldn't see all the beauty without being up in that chopper. It was a little terrifying for my wife because of the weight and balance issues. They had to put her right in the front with the glass floor.
Yeah.
So I noticed she wasn't taking any pictures, and I said, "Honey, are you going to get some photos?" And she said, "Don't talk to me right now." She said, "I will in just a second."
But no, we had done that. So what's it like going on these company trips? If you can share with the agents who've never been on one, maybe what it's like to go and be around other top producers and be recognized like this Canada trip was like.
Well, it's an opportunity I wish that every agent that's serious about the business could afford to go to. I mean, could afford the opportunity, I should say. Because to me, it's really one of the best parts about it. Because just talking to people like yourself and other agents, everybody's kind of got their own little spin to everything, but they're all successful or they wouldn't be on these trips.
Right.
So I feel like it's inspiring, really, and I always feel like I come away learning something because you never stop learning, you know. And I feel like every time I go on these trips, it's motivation for me to go back and do what we're already doing.
I got a lot out of. I have to tell you this. It really moved me a lot, and my wife, who was sitting there and goes, "Wow!" To when you told the story about how you transitioned into the phone thing and that you found me online and you changed your model and all that. And I just really appreciate you coming up and saying hello, because although we've interacted through support tickets and the membership site and all that, I didn't have a face to go with the name. And you're like, hey, I'm this guy that's been on the other side of the black and white keyboard, and you came up and introduced yourself, and we got to hang out a little bit. And I really appreciate you doing that. It was fun. Yeah,
I feel like I already knew you just from the videos, but you haven't seen me on videos, so I appreciate all you do for the industry, Chris, and I appreciate the opportunity to share my story, and I hope it helps somebody.
Thanks so much, Jacob. Have a great rest of your day, man. I appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir.